Today, we're going to talk about one of the best things you can do for your workbench, maintenance-wise. It's kind of hard to believe that it's been almost 6 years since I built 13 of these workbenches. I kept the runt of the litter, but periodically they do require a little bit of maintenance, and it's going to freak you out after you spend all this time building these things that at the end of the first month, I can almost guarantee it is either going to cut, bow, or twist on you. So you got to go back and refix everything. Now, what I do is you can generally tell how bad it is by using a straight edge and lining up with the other side of the bench. And I've known for years that I have a little bit of a low spot right about here, but the rest of it is flat. So if ever I need a reference of perfectly flat edge, I come back over here. But occasionally you want to go back and check it, because as I said, about a month after building them, they are going to warp pretty badly. You're going to have to reflatten them all, and boy was that a pisser for me having to redo 13 of them. But I did them all with my jack plane, because it is less than twice the distance over this way, so it's perfectly fine for flattening across this way. And by using the winding sticks, I can generally tell flatness going this way. And on those last few strokes when you come down this way, if you're just taking, the finest of shavings, it'll be more than flat enough. But in order to check whether it's still flat, I'll come back over with my straight edge, and at very different spots, I'll try to rotate it. And if it feels like it's got a lot of drag on the two sides, I know that it's probably cupped. I can look down here and see a gap. I don't see any gap on this one. You come back over, do the same thing periodically throughout your bench. So it's twisting a little bit in the middle right there, right about there. So I probably have a little bit of high spot or a piece of wood popping out. But what you're going to find is that it is going to warp a tad bit initially. Then about 3 or 4 months later, you're going to notice it's warped a little bit. That first time you might get a 1/2 inch gap in the middle. Scary. The next time it might be an 1/8 inch. And then 6 months after that, you'll check it again, and it might be a 1/16 of an inch. And then after a couple years, you're going to find that it's flat enough. You're not going to really have to do much more. I haven't reflattened this bench top since I've moved into this warehouse, I want to say 2.5 years ago. So that's good enough. But that doesn't mean I don't work on the bench top, because about every few months, I will re-tooth it. Now that term comes because in the old days they would take what they called a toothing blade, or a blade that they really kind of gouged out the end a whole bunch, and they would plane their top, and that would give them a uniform but coarse surface. And that surface is really, really grippy. And initially I would do it with this plane blade in my jack plane, and you just go over it one time just to scuff everything up. But I've stopped doing that one because that does give you the chance of getting splinters if you rub your hand over it. What I do now is get the absolute coarsest grit of sandpaper I can find. And I could only find 60 grit today, but I think I normally do it at 36. And then just give the whole bench top a nice once over. As you can see, I did not do this to make this thing look prettier, because I made it look worse. But we'll take care of that in a second with a little bit of Danish oil. Now, the idea is that you want to give your bench some teeth, something to grab onto. And actually feeling this, I wish I had found that 36 grit pad, because this is even at 60 grit, this is too smooth. But once I add a little bit of Danish oil, not too much, just enough to soak in and absorb those, make those fibers swell up, and to give a little bit of glue repellent, it'll be just fine. So that's my tip for the day. After you've spent all that time building your brand new workbench, you've re-flattened it out, going crossway, diagonally, lengthways, the crossway, diagonal, got it dead flat, dead smooth, dead perfect. Mess it up with the coarsest piece of sandpaper you can find. Because having that grip, allowing boards to stay still while you work on them, whether you're chiseling them or anything like that, is a real blessing. A freshly planed bench top is just way too smooth. So now that I got a fresh light coat of Danish oil on this one, I'm pretty much done for the day because this place stinks and I can't really do any more work on that till it dries. So let's talk about today's bonus. But before we do that one, if you've gotten anything out of this video, please take a few seconds and like, favorite, subscribe, do all those social medias. All that stuff really does help Worth Effort grow and expand. And if you've gotten any benefit out of some of our longer form videos or this series overall and want to contribute a little bit more, consider visiting wortheffort.com. I have an online store and a place that will show you how you can patronize us. We sell t-shirts and stuff like that along with some of my woodwork. But since we were talking about benches today, for the bonus, I thought I would talk about two of the best books out there. The Blue Book and the Red Book. Yeah, those of us in the industry generally talk about them by color. They are two books written by Christopher Schwarz on workbench design, specifically European workbench design. The blue one he came out with first, and it covers two different styles, a Nicholson and a French design, what we commonly call Roubaud's today. And then the second one went into a lot more designs out there. The 13 benches I built for my school were based upon ideas I came from these books. Now, when you read these things, I suggest you not build the benches you see in these books. Look at what was built traditionally and why they built it. Take elements that will meet your needs from each bench and build your own. For example, I would call this probably the love child of a French and German design, because I do not have through dovetails or tenons. I just have a thick Morrison tenon, only one going into this workbench. That's kind of a German technique. Draw board, no glue or anything. In fact, I'm not sure I have any glue in this workbench other than the laminates for the top. I used a very thick top. That's more of a French design. I used a very heavy base, thick timbers, lots of weight, prevents a lot of racking. More of a German design. So I kind of mixed and matched the elements from all the different workbenches he talked about to design something for myself. And if you've ever wanted to know things like why you don't want to put dog holes in a row, or why your workbenches are generally less than 2 feet across, all that kind of information is in these two books. So check them out. I can pretty much guarantee you everyone that's built a workbench in the last 10 years have referenced these two things.